Warning: this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewers' discretion is advised. This show may contain strong language and sensitive or controversial topics. We are not attorneys and are not providing legal advice. The views and conversations are our own thoughts and feelings, and therefore, purely speculation.
The entertainment world and beyond.
Skywalker air miles, feeding on a surface, gliding on water, constricted and conflicted.
Welcome to Purely Speculation, a show that exposes the harmful effects of the criminal legal system. I'm your host, Heather Lewis, the Executive Director of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and practitioner of participatory defense. On this show, you'll learn about the unspoken horrors of the criminal justice system and meet fierce allies and advocates. We will make the best of our traumatic experiences. We will get angry. We may even cry. We most certainly going to laugh, but one thing's for sure, we're going to keep it real. Welcome to Purely Speculation.
When it free my sins and let them loose, they was killing me, I got scars to prove, got me paralyzed, I could even barely move. Out the way I took the pain again.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome to Volume 4 of Purely Speculation Court Watch Edition. We have our veteran court watcher, Scotty, here with us today. We have two cases that we're going to be talking about, two very different cases, very different outcomes, highlighting just how the court process can go and the optics that we see. And the first case is the murder of Darrius Waller. And Darrius is a father of 5 who last year was driving down the street, down an alleyway. Apparently there was a pedestrian in the alleyway who thought that he tried to run him over. And that individual is Gerald Scott Ramos. And what Mr. Ramos did was, after he thought that Mr. Waller tried to run him over, he went into his apartment, got his firearm, and happened to notice that Mr. Waller was parked up the street. He proceeded to walk up the street and unload 8 shots into Mr. Waller, killing him. And so that trial was about a week and a half ago. And we bring this case because we saw that Mr. Ramos is a white man, Mr. Waller is a black man, and he was on trial for first-degree homicide. And Scotty's going to talk about the differences and how those charging when it comes to homicide, because I was misunderstanding that if it's a first-degree homicide charge, that automatically second and third, but I was corrected. So Scotty, would you tell us a little bit about how homicide is charged and what the differences are?
Okay, first of all, let's say that Mr. Ramos should have been tried on all 3. Okay. First, usually when there's a homicide like that, they charge you for first and third degree. But Mr. Ramos had the intention, okay? He did not have his firearm at that time.
Right.
He went home, got a firearm, and did Mr. Waller, which is definitely first-degree murder. Third-degree murder is intentionally harm someone, but not expecting the victim to die, but they do die. So they always charge most people with first and third.
Okay.
Second degree is intention to murder the victim, but did not plan it prior to the act. But when you go home and get a firearm to come back, you definitely know that you're going to do harm.
Right.
So he should have been charged on all 3, but that, like we said, is purely speculation.
Yes. And go ahead.
If we had been in his shoes, I'm sure we would have been charged with all 3.
Right. And most likely found guilty of first degree.
Oh, right? Without a doubt.
Right.
And
so that's when we talk about the optics of this case. That's why we're bringing this case. And we'll get into the reporting of this case also. So the optics are a white man is the perpetrator and a black man is the victim. And so we're going to talk about how it was reported. So Carl Hessler is the crime and something reporter for the courthouse, right? So Carl writes from the perspective, he has access to the court documents. He has, he's been there for years, so he's got relationships. And the article that he wrote for the Times Herald and the Pottstown Mercury stated that this was a 3-day trial, and we're court watchers, right? This is the court watchers edition. The trial started on a Monday. It was slated for 5 days. The trial started on a Monday. So they take a half a day to pick the jury. So they haven't even heard any testimony or anything like that at that point. So half a day, so afternoon, they have lunch or whatever. They come back, probably start the trial about 1 o'clock. So yeah, 1 till 4:30, all day Tuesday. I go on Wednesday morning thinking, oh, I'll be able to catch some of this trial and see, because the optics were exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see what the jury looked like. The family was sitting outside, so I was back up. So I get there at 10:30, looking to be able to go into see the trial and observe all of these things. There was a sign on the door that said, "Do not enter. Jury is being charged." That means they are giving their instructions to deliberate, right? At 10:30 in the morning on Wednesday. The article says that this was a 3-day trial, and it wasn't a 3-day trial. It was a day and a half. You know what I mean? And then he said that the jury deliberated for 10 hours. Well, at 10:30 on Wednesday, I think we got the verdict sometime Friday afternoon, right? That they came back with a 3rd-degree charge. That's what they found him guilty of, 3rd-degree murder. And the jury said we could not come to a unanimous decision on 1st-degree
murder.
So 12 white people could not come to an unanimous decision to send a white man to jail for life for murdering a black man. That's the optics to me. I don't know what it looks like to anybody else, but to me, that's what the optics look like. And we tried to get in and see, but the case, it went so quick. And it's like, well, we didn't even get to see the DA's argument and how they were trying this case, right? It happened so fast. And how did it happen so fast and took so long to deliberate? You didn't need a whole lot of evidence and testimony, right? If they were done and everything was presented to them. So I don't think they had a whole lot to deliberate other than probably their own conscience about, do we send a white man to jail for killing a black man? Do you differ?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Right.
And to be justified that they could not come to a unanimous decision, they had the concept that he used his automobile to do harm, when in essence, he's driving down the street. You're going in the house to get a weapon to do harm. Right. Okay. What you do is you take your weapon and you go shoot this man who is sitting in his car. Mm-hmm. You shoot him 8 times. Right. And that is not 1st-degree murder. That is not murder with intent.
Right. Part of his defense, and I'm going by the article that we read because we did not gain access to this trial because it happened so quickly, that he was emotionally distressed. He had just broken up with his girlfriend. He was depressed, and they tossed in that he was hearing voices. So I imagine they probably took that into consideration, like, and then on top of that, he thought somebody tried to run him over.
Yeah. Do you know what we live every day? We live all that every single day. We wake up as black men. We live that every day. Mm-hmm. And they have no problem at all finding us guilty of 1st-degree murder and 3rd-degree murder. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Right. So for that to be the defense, whereas you could not find him guilty of 1st-degree murder, hey, it's a whitewash. Okay.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the sentencing guidelines, the difference between 1st-degree murder and 3rd-degree murder?
Well, that depends on the judge anymore. It used to be 1st-degree murder, 20 years to life. Third degree murder, it could be anywhere from 10 to 20. But it, like, now they put it in the hands of the judge discretion. It used to be hard facts.
Right.
What you get charged with, this is what the sentencing guidelines come with. But now that they put it in the judge's description, he might walk home next week. Depends on her.
Right. Him. I think it's Carpenter.
I thought it was Rothstein.
No. Nope.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It was Carpenter.
Yeah.
So question, since you said it was up to the judge's discretion, we've watched, I think, 20 or 30 homicide trials, right? All of them except this one. No, I'm not going to say all. I'd say 95% of the ones that we have watched were Black folks, right?
2. Yes. All but 2.
But 2. How many had a sentence less than life?
1. and that's 20 years to a guy who was, I think he was like 60 some years old.
Right.
So in essence, he got life.
Right. And is that the one that shot his girlfriend?
Girlfriend, right.
Right. Yeah. So, again, death by incarceration, he didn't get life, but given the,
60 and 20 is 100 in my book.
And jail time, 20 years jail time is what?
Yeah. 80 years.
50 years, like it's
80 years.
Right.
Okay. And what happens is that they wind up doubling. So you wind up with 100 years. Right. Okay. He's giving you 20 and you're 60 and you're supposed to do 80, but they keep prolonging. You're a violent offender. And so the end winds up being the double.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's just crazy. And this is the stuff that we see every day doing this work. Like Scotty said, waking up as a Black man, you have to deal with the stress. As a Black woman with Black children, a Black son, 3 Black grandsons, this is the worry that we have to live with, people can just mistake anything and be so confused that, when it comes to Black people, that they don't understand what Black people's intentions are, because the media has painted, Black people to be these violent, ignorant criminals. And we are here constantly pushing back against that narrative, doing everything we can in our power to do so. And so I'll use that as a transition. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about this case that we cover? Yes. The first degree and all that?
Right.
Okay.
Well, the thing that I get out of this whole thing is that whites think that if I killed a Black man, what I did was take care of one less person that you have to police, that you have to incarcerate, that you have to be scared of.
Right.
Because the police who kill us, their biggest thing is we feared for our life. Whether I have a gun, whether I'm running from them, whether I'm in my car with my hands on the steering wheel, you are scared of me because I'm Black. And that is the perception that they use to incarcerate us and to kill us. So when a white man does what they think that we should do, he was scared. He was scared you was going to run him over. He has all these things going off in his head. He's worried about his girlfriend. But that's fine. You have the authority to deal with him on that level that you dealt with me. And you don't use that for him because of who he is and what his color persuasion is. So there's never going to be a level playing field until we get honest with ourselves about who we are and who they are that we have to deal with every day. Because if we got the same latitude that they get, 80% of us would not be incarcerated right now.
And let me just build upon that one point. I thank you that you brought it back around, because I had this to say and I was like, oh, I missed that part, and I thank you for bringing it back to us. That is the benefit of having a jury of your peers.
Exactly.
He had a jury of his peers.
Right.
And let me say this, and I will go so far as to say that if he had come to our hub or his family, we would have fought for Mr. Ramos. We would have strategized. We would have done everything that we could do to get him the best outcome for his case, which also meant he had a jury of his peers that would give him the best outcome for his case. If we had just that, if we had a jury of our peers, that there were more people of color when it's a defendant that is a Black person or a person of color. I watched an episode of Law and Order where there was a hearing impaired victim or defendant, and he signed and said, I want a jury of my peers, because guess what? People that are hearing impaired have a different perspective than people that are not hearing impaired. Hearing people do not have the same struggles or the same traumas or the same obstacles to overcome as hearing impaired people. So what makes you think white people understand Black people's struggles, cultures, relationships, their world, and they're measuring it against their own standards? So that's another a topic for a whole nother show about having a jury of our peers. But that right there is the pinnacle of having a jury of your peers, the benefit of having a jury of your peers, because he got the best outcome he could look for.
Yeah. And a few years ago, a gentleman, Mr. Williams from Oakland, California, tried to have quite a few sentences overturned because there was 90% white, 10% Black in the jury pool.
Right.
So every time we went up, for a jury, it was all white. When they went with the white person, they stick a Black in there so they could say that, hey, look, they went for it, so it was all right with us.
Right.
And
that goes for any nationality. That goes for any nationality, right. Anything that makes you distinct from, the general population or the masses of white folks. If you're handicapped, if you have a disability, the same with the hearing impaired, if you're blind, if you're Asian, if you're Latino, all of these things need to be taken into consideration. And this system is just cookie cutter because they don't care about how it affects other people. They just want it to work for theirs.
Right. And it has. So far, so good.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why we're here doing what we do, encouraging people to like and follow Purely Speculation, the Reuniting Family Bail Fund. The more we can expose this system, the more we can push for change, the more we can actually see justice happening in our communities, like this case we're about to talk about now. And I had mentioned participatory defense, with Mr. Ramos, but this case that we're about to talk about, we did participatory defense from day one. This case had started with an attempted murder charge and all of the host of charges that go along with that, including firearm not to be possessed, aggravated assault, PIC, all of those things. I didn't get a chance to pull up and do what we do, how we measure the success is time saved versus time served, which is calculating the maximum exposure to incarceration versus what was actually sentenced. And so this case, I would probably say 3 years since this case has been
almost four
since we've been working on this case. And I'll tell you this, the person in this case, just a phenomenal advocate for themselves, had to switch attorneys several times, had to fire a public defender, had to fight to get their discovery. When we reviewed the discovery, it had at least 2 or 3 other people's information in that discovery, aside from it being duplicated, right? You and I looked through the discovery, and there had to be at least 4 or 5 duplicates of the same thing. So it was a stack of papers like this that had other people's information, duplication after duplication after duplication of information of what was the evidence presented against this person. And so, your life is on the line. You're fighting, you're advocating, you're negotiating. And, it was difficult, right? it was extremely difficult to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But we had to understand this person is fighting for their life. We can't be mad that you are fighting however you are fighting. And so we went to the sentencing hearing last week, I think it was, right? And we spoke, the community spoke on this person's behalf. They spoke on their behalf. And Judge Rothstein, now I think this is probably the second time we done gave Judge Rothstein her props. So this is big ups. And when I say big ups, this is big ups, because what was initially a attempted murder charge, Scotty, real quick, what's the sentencing guideline for attempted murder?
15 to 30.
15 to 30. Plus a firearm not to be possessed.
Right.
Another 5.
Yeah.
So that's a minimum of 20.
Yeah.
Right. Minimum of 20 up to 30 plus. Not calculating all the other charges that were stacked in there. The sentencing hearing. So this person pled guilty to aggravated assault. I think firearm not to be possessed, and might have been one other thing.
Right.
Do you want to tell it, or do you want me to tell it?
You tell. Go ahead. You got that smile on your face. Go ahead with it.
You know what? I'm telling you, when Judge Rothstein, so after the defendant gets down and shared their truth, Judge Rothstein, she's talking, and she's saying, you know what? If I was in that situation, I don't know that I would have done anything different. And we're like, oh my God. At least I'm sitting here. This is what I'm doing. I'm like, oh my God. Like, what's about to happen? And she was like, okay, we're going to do 2 years house arrest and she's like talking in the middle of, she's saying the sentence, right? So she's saying stuff, saying the sentence, but she's still having a conversation about the sentence. And it was like, we're like, wait a minute, what's happening? Like, what's happening right now? And we're like, wait a minute. Oh my God, they're coming home today. They are not going to jail.
No, but if you remember, in between that time, the courtroom filled up with sheriff's deputies.
Yes.
So we kind of thought that.
Yeah, we started. Look, what they say?
They were coming for her to take her out of there because they filled up just like that.
Yeah, they filled up and posted up.
They're taking you out. Yeah. They
filled up and posted up. Yes. And so it was a lot of stuff, a lot of emotion. Like, it was crazy because thank you for reminding us, because I was like, oh shoot. They, you know what I mean? They touching their stuff. Like, let me get my cuffs ready. Let's just, they posted up. You're absolutely right. They did. And so we're listening to the judge. We're seeing the optics in the room of the sheriffs moving in. And we're like, what the hell? But maybe they were just ready to clear the courtroom, because we all were leaving out there, and it was late, right? It was late. It was after 4:30. And so when it's really kind of like sunk in about what was happening, and that, our loved one was coming home, I think everybody was in tears.
Shocked.
Yeah, it was shocked. We were all in tears. We were just like, I was shaking. I was just like, oh my God. Started jumping out of my skin. And then who was the kicker? I'll let you tell the kicker at the end about the fees.
Hey, they tell her.
Done. You were done at that point.
Yeah, yes, I was definitely done, because I just knew she was going to jail. I figured, hey, at least 60 days.
Right.
Something this person would get at least 60 days, and then maybe they'd give her house arrest or whatever. But after the judge gave them all that, they asked, well, since I'm going to be on house arrest, I can't work. Will you waive the fees?
And what the judge say?
The judge said, oh, you're going to be on house? Oh, yeah, I'll waive everything. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay court costs. You don't have to pay probation fees. She said, oh, yeah, you're good to go. And I almost passed out.
We all did. We was like, if you don't shut up.
Yeah, I said, don't ask for nothing else. Let's get out of here.
Yes, that was like, so when you say, when we talk about participatory defense, the courtroom was packed. of her community, her family, her loved ones, her friends. And it was just an amazing thing to see. And that is what justice looks like. Judge Rothstein did the right thing. She heard the story. She understood the story, understood the consequences, or the, you know what I mean, how things happen with domestic violence. And she saw the human being in a human experience having to make a decision in a bad situation. You know what I mean? I don't think there was any good decision to have been made in this situation. And you have to act and self-care,
Self-preservation.
Self-preservation. Self-preservation. You know what I mean? And having to make that decision in a split second. And so all of that, I believe, was heard and considered and taken into consideration, obviously, because the sentence reflected that. And recognizing that this person is needed in the community, is wanted in the community, is productive in the community, and needs to be there for their children. Right. And so we are so proud and so thankful that that was the outcome. And as a community of friends and, you know, family and just, you know, as a hub, we're family now, that we're excited to just, you know, stand in the gap and fill it in, you know what I mean? However we can, so that this person is supported through their sentence of the 2 years house arrest and the 4 years of probation, which will be run consecutive. So right. 2 will be ate up while they're on house arrest. So it was just such I get teary, you know, just talking about that story about, you know, I think that's was what could have happened versus what actually happened. And that's just such a blessing and what participatory defense does. You know, we interrupt what the status quo as far as hearings and cases and trials go. We intercede with the human nature, the human experience, and, you know, really just present the individual to the court versus just that stack of charges, and combat the viciousness that the DA presents. Like, they just present, you know, defendants as these worst, you know, human beings, not even human beings, just these worst things in the world. And not realizing that, okay, you just tore this person down like to the bone, and how are they supposed to rebuild themselves up and come back into society after you done ripped them to shreds and send them off to prison? And then they have to figure out who they are in prison and then come back home and try to figure that all out again. So, it's crazy.
But it proves once again how important participatory defense is.
Right.
Because if she had been in jail and tried to go through the paces that she went through, this would have never happened like this.
Right. You're right.
She'd be gone for a while.
Right.
But because of the due diligence that we put in place to help people in her situation and the support, she had letters, like you said, the courtroom was full. People spoke on her behalf because she does things in the community with the kids and with the elderly and so on and so forth. It made a big difference. And if we weren't there to project that to the community and to the judge, we'd been looking at a far different outcome in this particular situation. Right. And that's why we're important and the bail fund is important, because never would anything like this happen if they were incarcerated.
Right. And I don't know, folks know, I mean, they certainly know you in the community and they know your story. So to hear that coming from you, because, and I'm not going to say like you're the naysayer, but like you said, you keep it, you give them worst case scenario.
That's right.
And through this, and I'm the eternal optimist. I'm like, no, let's, ask for what you want. Who knows? Nothing they could tell. All they could do is tell you no. Right. And so we are very opposite ends of the spectrum. You're like, no, they sending you up the river. I'm like, no, they're not. And so for this this outcome, like you said, you just thought she was going to jail. This outcome has blown so many people's minds that this thing works. It works, and it was the right thing. It was the right outcome. And so I'll use that to transition into our newest initiative, because not only are we here advocating for folks in the criminal legal system, we recognize that that there's trauma, and then there's lack of education and lack of experience and things like that. And so, we can't rely on other people or other systems to do for us what we can do for ourselves. And so February is Black History Month. And we're using our platform because I have a 15-year-old and who's in school, and every February she gets a list of Black people that she can research and do a book report on or whatever. And the list never changes. And at whatever teacher she had at the time did not allow her to do somebody not on the list. And that's where we came up with this concept called Not on the List. And it is a call to our youth from K through 12 to research somebody not on the list. It could be your grandmom, it could be your uncle, it could be, somebody, Black Americans, Black Africans. We're even, opening up to, our BIPOC community. And so it's to expand our knowledge base on who and what and how great Black people can be. You know what I mean? We have people that have overcome challenges.
Black people are.
And are, right. Because it's not just history. Like, there's history being made to every day. You know what I mean? I keep talking about Fox and Rob because their story is like the pinnacle of overcoming, right? They have an Oscar-nominated documentary. She's running for state representative as a formerly incarcerated Black woman, in one of my favorite cities in New Orleans. So that's, a high level that, most people just don't even in regular life don't think of, subscribing to. But, overcoming, this case, you know what I mean? And staring down decades of prison time and being able to stay home with your family and in your community and continue to grow and learn as an individual. So that's the pinnacle there. And so every day we're making history and we're overcoming and we're showing positive images of what Black and brown people can do and are doing in their community. And so we're going to be hosting. So Not on the List, we're just introducing it today in Black History Month on our Facebook page. We have had a running list every day. In the month of February, we have been posting about Black Africans and Black Americans on our website, but also putting a call out to our youth to submit Black Americans that they want to write about that we can highlight on the show and on our website. We'll be doing every time. So bi-monthly, we'll be on the show and on our website and on our Facebook page, social media and all that. And we're looking for sponsors for this initiative also, because we were going to send, I always get my left and right mixed up in this. We send merchandise, T-shirts with our logos and things like that, and a gift card to the youth that their person gets highlighted on our social media and on the show. So we're looking for folks to sponsor that initiative, to encourage our young people to do research. It is not limited to the written word. It's written word, spoken word, video, music, however you want to present your Black American or Black African that you want to highlight. We're open to all mediums to present that. And so it's a new initiative that we're looking to just kind of, uplift the spirit of, a people that is constantly being oppressed for no reason at all at this point. Slavery has been abolished and we're, supposedly allowed to be in these same spaces, but it shows itself. Oppression and racism continues to show itself, like we said in the case earlier, and just really trying to give some positivity back into our youth. So with that being said, we can get ready to close out. And one of my favorite parts of the show, and I think our viewers' favorite part of the show, is our what the fuck moment. So Scotty, I'll let you go. I don't know if you thought of that one, if you had one, but go ahead.
Oh, I have one.
Okay.
What the fuck was that Jory thinking to let that man walk after he put 8 bullets in a black man sitting in a car minding his own business? What the fuck?
Yeah. That's heavy. And so we say what the fuck can have many iterations and inflections. And my what the fuck moment was in that sentencing hearing. It was multiple, because like you said, when them sheriffs started, I was like, what the fuck? And then when we heard house arrest, I was like, what the fuck? So it was crazy. And that's an example of a positive what the fuck moment, because our minds were literally blown, because that we, as much as we were positive and praying, let me stop banging. We just experience said she's going to get some kind of jail time. And no, we don't want it to be, but like you said, maybe 60 days, maybe weekends, something like they going to send her away for a minute for something. And it didn't happen. And we're like, whoa.
But do you see how God works?
Yes.
We went from one end of the spectrum for this gentleman getting a slap on the wrist for killing one of us, and God put one of our angels back in the masses to be able to carry on good work.
Amen. And that's the perfect way to end the show, other than asking people to continue to like us on YouTube, Facebook, our Instagrams, our social media. Please, we need to get this word and this work out there. We're part of a national network. There's 2 national networks that we're part of, the National Participatory Defense Network and the National Bail Fund Network. And they both, their websites, you can go on their websites and find, if you're watching this from another state, you can find a hub like this in your state. And if not, we can organize around it to get you one, or, have some folks just kind of, organize around a particular case or a loved one. And, it's just, we have to share. And since I said that, I'll give you a real quick story about how that happened. We were invited to participate in the Black History Month panel on the 15th of February last week. And someone heard us talking about the work that we do. And we got a call a couple days later about a young man who's facing some charges. And, now he's going to get connected with us, and we'll be able to help him manage the process, understand he's young, kid, 23 years old, and help him understand, how to get the best outcome for his case, where he needs to fight and where he needs to kind of, accept certain things or what have you. So, this process works. It's beneficial, and it also tears down, the system's purpose of isolating you and shaming you, so that you just kind of you just want it to be over, right? So you're willing to take whatever they're given just so it can be over. And, folks are fighting back, and we're grateful for that. Scotty, I'm eternally grateful for you and all your wisdom and your commitment to folks that are going through the criminal legal system, and standing in the gap for folks and praying for folks and keeping it real with folks, as much as I try to throw a little sugar on it. You still, it is, you're not lying. You're definitely not lying when they say they're going to throw the book at you or want to throw the book at you. And so I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And again, peace and love to all of you folks, and like us, follow us, subscribe, so that we can keep doing the good work that we're doing.
Remember, we do this from the heart. And a lot of people think, oh, well, you never know when you might need us.
That's right.
So help us, support us, make sure that we're relevant in your community. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Purely Speculation. If you learned something, share something. Please like, follow, and share this show. The more our communities know, the more they are empowered, and the faster we can create change. Purely Speculation would not be made possible without the generous support of the Community Justice Exchange, the Health Sparks Frank E. Boston Black Justice Fund, Philadelphia Foundation, and Reform Alliance. Thank you. Booyah!
Intuition different, already lived and dreamt it. Visions make my vision clear as I'm jogging through this fog of life. I be fog like with the fog set.